Now, we all are living in God's playground. Almost nobody is conscious of it. Nobody is conscious of the miracle of what it is to have life, only because they've never tapped that spiritual warrior in themselves. That thing in them that makes no excuses, that does what they have to do. All my life, I have done what I have to do to have a spiritual life. That's what I've done all my life, or at least since I was 25 years old, when I met my spiritual teacher. And I said, you've got to do what you got to do. And there are no excuses, because excuses always took me on some river that was going nowhere, always. And then I had to navigate the boat to get back in the channel again, And I'm saying that's what it does. And, you just do what you got to do, and you make it possible for yourself to do what you got to do, to grow, and to be able to build a system inside yourself that you become that spiritual warrior. You can slay all of your crap. You can turn all of your garbage into compost and use it to build a remarkable inner garden. And the tomatoes that will grow inside you will be very conscious tomatoes. You will have a life that will be rich and full of the miracles of what it means to be born on the earth. And again, those miracles are not wealth and living in some fantastic, I've done that, I've been there, I've done all that. I've lived in palaces, I've lived on the streets, for God's sake. It's none of that makes you happy. One or the other, it's all bullshit, frankly. The only thing that makes you happy is your heart's open. There's love inside you, you can live that way every day, and that's never going to happen for a human being until you have the guts to make it happen. You have to have the guts to make it happen, or it's not going to happen. What will happen is this mind and the emotions are going to go, and the anxieties are going to go, and you're going to go to therapists and this and that and the other, and spend your life complaining about all the things that are wrong, and you're going to go to the grave that way. You understand? Until you take full responsibility for yourself and are willing to become a spiritual warrior, have the courage to do it. Otherwise there's reincarnation. There's always the time to come back and do it again, and again, and again, and again, until we finally grow up and we stop living our life like children. You understand? Most human beings are adults living emotionally and mentally, they're 7 and 8 years old. And yet they are adults. They have bodies, they're 50, 60. And you go inside them and you begin to see that they're frightened, they're this, they have all the fears of somebody who's still 7 years old. They haven't become a spiritual warrior. They haven't learned how to slay all their dragons and to keep their hearts open and to really be full of that love and that joy, because they haven't spent the time truly using the tools they have to refine the chakra system. The chakra system in a human being is everyone's link to higher energy in the universe. People call it esoteric, tantric, this and that. It's a lot of nonsense. It's no more esoteric than the digestive system, than any other system you have, It's there. And if you don't use the digestive system properly, it's going to back up on you. If you don't use the chakra system properly, it's also going to back up on you. It's going to atrophy, and your whole system is going to go out of balance inside. So we need to learn how to do it. And it takes guts to learn how to do it. You want to learn this, you got to let go of something else. You have to let go. You have to be willing to say, okay, I'm willing to learn and listen and grow, and it means something to me. And it gets back to something I've been talking about all weekend, and something that's almost missing in everybody, and that's a need to have a spiritual life. People delude themselves with spiritual. They talk spiritual. But when the need is real in somebody, there's a hunger. There's a hunger. And then the need becomes your actions. How you deal with it in your life, what you do, the choices you make, what you do, what you're willing to sacrifice to learn, what you're willing to go through to learn, what you're willing to do in your life, so that you can become that spiritual warrior that's going to slay all the things in you that are killing you. and keeping you from having a wonderful life, joyous life. So all of these things work together. And although it sounds like some kind of antithetical premise, everybody thinks the peaceful warrior or the peaceful seeker after God, you know? Yeah, the peace is one thing. A warrior, a really great samurai has to be at peace with himself, or they're not going to be able to fight the battle. You understand? If they're full of anxiety and fear, they're never going to win the battle. But a really great warrior is completely calm inside and is clear about what is going on in the battlefield. Now, this is what meditation does to build that system inside so that you can be clear about what you're up against in yourself so that you can win that battle. Before I go on, does anyone have a question about any of this? So these things are not antithetical, spiritual warrior, you know? It sounds like it, but it's not. You know, they really work together, because how else are you going to do it? I mean, we're all full of so much crap. All of us. And there's a perfect, I once wrote somewhere, suffering is the perfect democracy. I did. I wrote that in a book somewhere, one of my books. Suffering is the perfect democracy. Everybody has it. Everybody. There's nobody on this planet that doesn't have it. But very few people have the tools that they use consciously to become warrior enough to transform their suffering to a spiritual life. That's the difference between somebody who's having a spiritual life and somebody who's just kind of living, as I said earlier today, it's SSD. You know, it's security, safety, and death. You know, it's terrible. This is how most people live: security, safety, and death. You know? And they, one day, it's gone, over with. You know, instead of having that warrior mentality, that thing in them that's going to do battle, and being willing to step into the unknown, being willing to take a chance in life, being willing to go beyond themselves, to open to all the vast creativity that life has to offer.